Spin News with Bill O'Reilly. On air and online at BillO'Reilly.com.
George Pataki, name ring a bell? He was the governor of New York State, Republican, from 1995 to 2006, the last Republican governor here. And he has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize due to his humanitarian relief efforts in Ukraine. The governor joins us now from New York City. Are you being shy about this? I went to a dinner with you 10 days ago, and that's the first time I ever heard about this. Did it get any coverage?
No, not really. But I've never been any good at self-publicity. You do things because you think they're right. And that's what we've been doing in Ukraine. So it hasn't gotten any attention, but I'm fine with that. We just want to continue the mission to help the civilians, to help with humanitarian aid in Ukraine.
Okay. Number one, I know you're a modest man and you're not a self-promoter, but in this case, next time, call me, because I am a self-promoter and I'm not modest. I'll do it. I'll do it. Because
it's a deal. I'll call you next time, Bill.
Yeah, call me. A Nobel Peace Prize is the top of the chart. And when I heard that at the table with you, I went, what? And I think that people should understand this. So tell me exactly what you have done in Ukraine.
Well, literally within 3 or 4 days of the war, I went there and I took a few people from the Pataki Center because we wanted to help. We wanted to provide some humanitarian aid. And we took in food and medicine and some clothing. And when we got to Ukraine, we saw just this enormous need and nobody was filling it. And I don't have a giant foundation like the Ford Foundation or some of the others. But what we did is talk to government officials, talk to civilians. What do you need? And the list was endless. So since that time, our little group has made 10 trips throughout Ukraine. We brought in everything from temporary housing units to generators. Literally, we provided hundreds of generators for the winter when the power was destroyed by the Russians. And we provided heaters, over 400 heaters to heat over 400,000 people. So we're just trying to help meet the humanitarian need. We're waiting for the government's promised aid to get there. We haven't seen it yet.
So the Biden administration promised humanitarian aid, but it hasn't gotten to the Ukrainian people yet, as you're saying.
We have not seen it in Ukraine in any significant amount at all.
Congress did a lot of money. Congress had a lot of the money. So it's just
that's right.
Slow Joe hasn't gotten it there. Now, a lot of Americans are very concerned about this unending flow of taxpayer money, both military and humanitarian, into this country, that it will never end. There'll be another Afghanistan. They're going to fight forever. Putin's not going to give up. Zelensky's not going to give up. How do you see that aspect of it?
Well, I understand that we don't want to continue to open-end fund a war or provide humanitarian aid without the accountability. But, Bill, I see it very clearly. This is good against evil. This is Russia and Putin invading a democratic, pro-Western country with no pretense at all. They're not even trying to hide it. And you look at their allies, Iran, China, North Korea. These are the people helping the Russians. And if that doesn't let you know whose side we should be on, then shame on you. So I don't think this will go on forever. It's unsustainable, to use a word of the left. I hope that the Ukrainian counteroffensive is enormously successful, but the war has got to stop. But in the meantime, the humanitarian need is just growing. So we're going to keep trying to do what we can.
Okay. Do you have any worries that Zelensky's crew is corrupt, that they may siphon off humanitarian aid? I mean, those charges have been lodged. Do you have any worries about that?
Sure, I do. And I think anybody who's sensible has to understand when you're talking literally tens of billions of dollars, you have to have accountability and make sure that the funds are going where they're supposed to be going. And that's one of the things we've been talking with the Ukrainian government about, to make sure that that's the case. We have seen, from my standpoint, no signs of that at all, no signs of corruption, but I'm not sufficiently naive to know that it's impossible. So one of the things I've been arguing for with both the American government and the Ukrainian government is to have an inspector general system to make sure there's an accounting as to where those funds go. I think the American people are entitled to that. I think the Ukrainians would be fine with that, and then it would take away some of those questions. But the need is real. And
no doubt about it.
The Ukrainians are doing a great deal is real.
Now, how can people help you and your foundation?
It's everybody calls it a foundation. We don't have a lot of money. We're really just a center, the GeorgePatakiCenter.com, and just donations online or to our Ukraine Relief Fund. We're a 100% volunteer organization. Nobody gets paid. Whatever we raise goes directly to humanitarian aid in Ukraine, except for travel and security expenses. So we're going to continue to fight the fight. And Bill, I just want to say one last thing. You're not too tough on Biden. If I were answering what you were saying earlier in the show, by no means are you too tough on Biden. I think he's the worst president of my lifetime. Keep it up. We need the American people to realize
that we do. Now let's switch to politics in New York State. You were the last Republican governor. I was at WCBS TV while you were rising. It was a moderate state back then. Always the city tilted left, but the regular New York State was a kind of a moderate. And you were reelected and served more than 2 terms. What has happened to New York? It's now, next to California and Illinois, the most leftist state in the union. What happened?
Well, I think a lot of things happened. One is that, first of all, we're number 1 in the country. Maybe California's past us in losing people moving to other states, moving to Texas, moving to Florida. And it's not somebody, who's working for Soros's NGO. It's people who are working for a living or retired who would tend to vote Republican or more moderate. So we've lost a ton of our voters who have just moved out of the state. The second thing I think is just the collapse of the party system. We used to have a vigorous Republican Party, and we haven't had that for a while. And that's one of the things that I'd like to see happen is the state is failing. The city is failing because it's a one-party system.
But how did it get to be a one-party system? The voters have turned left. Even Zeldin almost beat Hochul and would have, if not for New York City African Americans voting 90% for Hochul, even though they see bodies in the street in those neighborhoods every day. Did the people of New York change their point of view about politics?
The people of New York are more centrist than conservative. When I ran for office the first time, there were more conservatives than liberals in the state because we polled that. And you look at it now, and it's not as far left as you would think from the political results. It is still as many people identify as a conservative in this state as they do as a liberal. The problem is that we have no access. We have no funds. We have no media, with the exception of places like you. And we haven't done the proper outreach. I'm an optimist. I think we have enormous opportunity in New York State as Republicans with the Latino community. They are the ones who are suffering from bad schools, unsafe streets, subways that don't work, jobs that move out of the state. But we haven't done the aggressive outreach we need to do. And if we did that, we don't have to change philosophy. We don't have to change our policies. We just have to show that we care and that our policies are right for them, and what the Democrats are doing to them are hurting their future and their children's future. So the opportunity is still there for Republicans. We just have to make the case and fight the fight. And I'm going to help us to do that.
All right, Governor, we appreciate it. When is the Nobel people, when are they going to announce who wins?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't even know that?
But I don't even know. I know we're going back to Ukraine again this month. And we're going to try to help. But,
that's good.
But well, I honestly don't know.
If it were me, I'd be camping out in Norway. I'd be, hey, Nobel Peace Prize right here. Congratulations. Look, it doesn't matter if you win. It really doesn't matter. Just the fact that you're nominated and the people around the world understand what you're doing. I hope my listeners and viewers do help out the George Pataki group. Give me the internet address again for that.
GeorgePatakiCenter.com. Ukraine Relief Fund.
Very good.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Governor.
Very
nice
much
to see you. Appreciate it.
The No Spin News with Bill O'Reilly. On air and online at BillO'Reilly.com.